First contact in deep space. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the industrial mining vessel, Workhorse, watching as her crew maneuvered through the asteroid field in the Kuiper Belt. The ship's reinforced hull creaked under the strain of another day's work, its massive processors humming in the background. After 15 years in deep space mining operations, Sarah thought she'd seen everything the void had to offer. She was wrong. "Captain, we're picking up something weird," called out Marcus Rodriguez, the ship's sensor operator. His dark eyes were fixed on the holographic display, fingers dancing across the interface. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Sarah moved to his station, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck. The sensor readings showed an unusual energy signature emanating from beyond the asteroid field, far from any known shipping lanes or mining claims. "Define weird, Marcus. It's structured. Like a song played in mathematics. Whatever it is, it's not natural, and it's not human." Marcus adjusted the sensors, bringing the signal into sharper focus. "It's a distress call, Cap. I'd stake my life on it." The bridge crew fell silent. In all of human history, despite decades of searching, humanity had never encountered intelligent alien life. Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. As a mining captain, she had no training for first contact scenarios. But she did have something equally valuable, 20 years of experience solving problems in space. "Raj, plot us a course," she ordered her navigator. "But keep us at a safe distance. Way, power up the emergency thrusters. If anything looks wrong, we bolt." Her crew responded with practiced efficiency, their training overriding their excitement. As the Workhorse cleared the asteroid field, they got their first visual of the source. Scattered across space like broken diamonds were dozens of vessels, each one easily dwarfing Sarah's ship. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, glowing with internal light that pulsed in complex patterns. "My God," whispered Wei from her station. "They're beautiful." The alien ships were arranged in a rough sphere, all seemingly unable to move beyond a certain boundary. As the Workhorse approached, their sensors detected an invisible barrier, a region of space where the very fabric of reality seemed to twist and fold. "Marcus, broadcast on all frequencies," Sarah ordered. "Keep it simple. We don't want to make first contact with a grammar mistake." The message they sent was basic: "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Workhorse. We've received your distress signal. Do you require assistance?" The response came not as words but as patterns of light that rippled across the hulls of the nearest vessels. The ship's computer worked to decode the message, translating the visual language into something humans could understand. "We are the Nexari," the translation read. "We are trapped within a quantum gravitational anomaly of unknown origin. Our systems cannot overcome its effects. Your assistance would be appreciated." Sarah noted the hesitation in the translation. She'd dealt with enough proud mining colony leaders to recognize when someone was struggling to ask for help. "Can you explain the nature of the trap?" she asked. The response came faster this time, the light patterns more urgent. "Our quantum drive systems interact adversely with the anomaly. Each attempt to escape strengthens its hold. We have been trapped for the equivalent of 3 of your Earth months." Sarah studied the sensor readings of the anomaly. The Nexari ships were clearly more advanced than anything humanity had ever dreamed of building. Their technology operated on principles that human science was only beginning to theorize about. Yet here they were, stuck in space, being offered help by a mining vessel. "Permission to speak freely, Captain?" Marcus asked, his eyes still fixed on the readings. "Go ahead. These ships, they're trying to punch their way out with energy levels we can barely measure. But look at the anomaly's reaction." He highlighted a section of the sensor data. "It's like a Chinese finger trap, the harder they pull, the tighter it gets." Sarah smiled. Sometimes the simplest solutions came from the most unexpected places. Send another message, Marcus. Tell them we'd like to try something, but they might find it a bit primitive. As the message was transmitted, Sarah watched the alien vessel's pulse with new patterns. She couldn't help but wonder what these advanced beings would think of the plan forming in her mind. Sometimes the most sophisticated problems required the least sophisticated solutions. Wei, power up the tow cables, she ordered. All of them. And get me a direct line to Earth. They're going to want to hear about this. The workhorse's massive industrial cables, designed to haul asteroids and wreckage, began to unspool. In the distance, the trapped Nexary ships continued their ethereal light show, their patterns reflecting off the scattered dust and ice of the Kuiper Belt. First contact wasn't going quite how anyone had imagined it would, but then again, the best solutions rarely did. The pride of the advanced. The news of first contact spread across Earth like wildfire. Within 48 hours, the normally quiet region of the Kuiper Belt had become the center of human attention. The workhorse, once a simple mining vessel, now found itself surrounded by hastily dispatched science vessels and military observers. Ambassador ZYXO of the Nexary appeared as a holographic projection in the workhorse's makeshift conference room, their form a constantly shifting pattern of light and geometric shapes. Around the table sat Earth's hastily assembled response team, Captain Chen, Dr. Emily Patel from the Quantum Physics Institute, and Commander James Wilson of the Space Force. Your proposal is... ZYXO's translated voice paused, the light patterns flickering in what Sarah had begun to recognize as discomfort. Interesting. But surely you understand that our vessels operate on principles far beyond your current technological development. The suggestion of using industrial towing cables seems primitive. Sarah finished, a slight smile playing at her lips. Sometimes the old ways work best, Ambassador. Our sensors show that every time you engage your quantum drives, the anomaly's field strength increases by a factor of 10. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her tablet displaying a complex series of equations. We've analyzed the anomaly's behavior. It appears to be designed specifically to trap advanced energy signatures. The more sophisticated the technology, the stronger its grip becomes. The Nexary ambassador's form shifted through several color patterns before stabilizing. You suggest we allow ourselves to be pulled free? Like stranded water vessels in your planet's antiquity? Commander Wilson leaned forward. With all due respect, Ambassador, being stuck with advanced technology seems worse than being freed by simple tools. The conference room fell silent as ZYXO's form pulsed with rapid color changes. Sarah had spent enough time communicating with the Nexary to recognize this as their equivalent of intense internal debate. There is another concern, ZYXO finally said. Your cables, while impressive for your technology level, were designed for moving asteroids. Our ship's hulls are composed of semi-fluid quantum materials. The physical stress of such a primitive approach could cause catastrophic damage. Sarah had anticipated this objection. That's why we're not going to pull with just one ship. She pressed a button, bringing up a holographic display of her plan. We've called in every available towing vessel in the outer solar system. Multiple points of contact, distributed force. The principles are simple, but the execution needs to be perfect. Dr. Patel added, we've also developed a resonance dampening field that should help protect your hull integrity. It's based on studying the patterns your ships naturally generate. The Nexary ambassador's form stretched upward, a gesture Sarah had learned indicated surprise. You developed this by observing our hull frequencies? In mere days? Humans are good at pattern recognition, Sarah said with a shrug. We had to be. We didn't have advanced quantum computers to do it for us. ZYXO's next words came slowly, deliberately. Our civilization has traveled between the stars for 50,000 of your years. We have encountered and solved problems that your scientists have not yet imagined. Yet here we float, trapped by our own advancement, while you offer us rescue using technology we mastered and abandoned millennia ago. Sometimes, Sarah replied, the best way forward is to take a step back. The ambassadors form condensed into a tight geometric pattern, their version of a contemplative pose. There are those among my people who will resist. They believe accepting help from a less advanced species would be embarrassing. Commander Wilson couldn't suppress a short laugh. More embarrassing than staying trapped in space. You don't understand, Zwexel's patterns flickered rapidly. Our technology, our advancement, they are central to our identity. To be rescued by what we would have once considered primitive tools, some would rather wait for our own ships to find us. Sarah stood up, her voice firm but understanding. Ambassador, I've spent my career in the mining industry. You know what I've learned. A billion-credit mining laser is worthless if a simple drill would do the job better. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the right solution. The Nexary ambassadors' form expanded, creating complex patterns that the translators couldn't quite process. Finally, they spoke again. We will allow you to attempt your rescue with one of our smaller vessels. A scout ship. If successful, we will consider implementing your plan for the entire fleet. As the meeting concluded and the ambassador's hologram faded, Dr. Patel turned to Sarah. They're terrified, she said quietly. Not of our method failing, but of it succeeding. It challenges everything they believe about technological progress. Sarah watched through the viewport as more human ships arrived, their simple but sturdy forms a stark contrast to the elegant Nexary vessels. Progress isn't always about moving forward, she replied. Sometimes it's about remembering where you came from. The rescue attempt would begin in 12 hours. As Sarah looked at the trapped alien fleet, their hulls still pulsing with complex light patterns, she couldn't help but wonder if humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization would be reminding them of the value of simplicity. Operation Throwback. Dawn broke over Earth's horizon, casting long shadows across the assembled fleet of human rescue vessels. 20 mining ships, including the Workhorse, had been retrofitted with enhanced towing systems and reinforced cables. They looked like a collection of industrial workhorses next to the elegant Nexary scout ship they were preparing to rescue. Sarah stood at the Workhorse's primary control station, running through final checks. The rescue fleet had spent the last 12 hours practicing their coordination. In deep space, where milliseconds could mean the difference between success and disaster, perfect synchronization was essential. All ships reporting ready, Captain, Marcus announced, his hands hovering over the sensor controls. The Nexary scout ship has powered down all non-essential systems as requested. Through the main viewport, Sarah could see the scout ship's hull had dimmed to a subtle glow, like dying embers. Even powered down, its technological sophistication made the human fleet look like ancient sailing vessels in comparison. Your species appears to be experiencing elevated anxiety responses, came the translated voice of Kexley, the scout ship's commander. I assure you, if this attempt fails, we will not hold it against you. It is, after all, to be expected given the technological gap between our civilizations. Sarah smiled at the thinly veiled condescension. Noted, Commander. But let's save the performance reviews for after we get you out. All ships, begin approach sequence. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, taking up positions around the scout ship like points on a compass. Each vessel extended multiple towing cables, their magnetic grapples designed to distribute force evenly across the Nexary hull. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Marcus counted down. 20 sets of grapples made contact simultaneously, adhering to the quantum fluid hull with a soft blue glow. All grapples report secure contact, Captain. Kexley, Sarah called out, how's your hull integrity? The contact points are stable, the Nexary commander replied, surprise evident in their translated voice. Your resonance dampening field appears to be functioning as theorized. Most impressive, for such basic technology. Sarah ignored the qualifier. All ships, begin power-up sequence. Remember, we're not trying to outmuscle the anomaly. Slow and steady wins this race. 20 engines came to life, their chemical rockets igniting in perfect synchronization. The cables went taut, spreading the pulling force across the scout ship's hull. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Power at 20%, Marcus reported. Anomaly field strength holding steady, 25%, 30. Sarah watched the sensor readings carefully. The anomaly's energy patterns remained consistent, it wasn't reacting to their attempt the way it had to the Nexary's quantum drives. Increased to 40%. Nice and easy. The scout ship shuddered slightly, and for a brief moment, Sarah feared their cables would shear apart. But the resonance-dampening field held, protecting both the cables and the alien hull. "We're detecting movement," Marcus exclaimed. 0.3 meters per second, 0.5, the scout ship is definitely moving. On the main screen, sensor data showed the scout ship slowly but surely sliding free of the anomaly's grip. The field strength remained constant, unable to tighten its hold against the simple mechanical force being applied. "Fascinating," Kexley's voice carried genuine wonder. "The anomaly appears unable to adapt to your primitive propulsion methods. It's as if we were trying to catch starlight with a quantum net, while you simply walked around it." The rescue continued for another 3 hours, the human fleet maintaining their careful coordination as they gradually pulled the scout ship free. When the vessel finally cleared the anomaly's boundary, a cheer erupted across all human channels. "Scout ship is clear," Marcus announced proudly. "Hull integrity at 98%. The dampening field worked perfectly." Sarah opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Outstanding work, everyone. Coordination was perfect." She turned her attention to the Nexary commander. "How are you feeling, Kexley?" The scout ship's hull rippled with patterns that the translators interpreted as a mixture of relief and embarrassment. "We are grateful. Though I must admit, being rescued by chemical rockets and metal cables was not how I imagined this day would progress." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," Sarah replied. "Would you like to inform Ambassador ZYXL of our success, or should I?" "I will inform the ambassador," Kexley said. Their next words came with what seemed like reluctance. "Captain Chen, it appears we may have been overly dismissive of your methods. Perhaps there are things our civilizations could learn from each other." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the rest of the trapped Nexary fleet, their ship still pulsing with complex light patterns. The scout ship's rescue was just the beginning, they had hundreds more vessels to save, and the anomaly wasn't getting any weaker. "That's the thing about space, Commander," Sarah said, watching as her fleet began preparations for the next rescue. "It has a way of teaching humility to everyone, no matter how advanced they might be." As the scout ship moved to a safe distance, its hull began to glow more brightly, returning to its normal power levels. Sarah couldn't help but notice that its pattern of lights seemed different now, less rigid, more flowing. Perhaps the Nexary were learning that progress didn't always mean complexity, and that sometimes the best solutions were the ones simple enough to work. Against the clock. 10 days into the rescue operation, Sarah knew something was wrong. The anomaly's energy readings had begun to fluctuate wildly, its boundaries shifting like a restless beast. They had managed to free 30 Nexary vessels, but hundreds remained trapped, and time was running out. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Patel called from her makeshift laboratory aboard the workhorse. Her usual composed demeanor had given way to obvious concern. "The anomaly is becoming unstable. The quantum variance is increasing exponentially." Sarah studied the holographic display, watching as the anomaly's energy patterns twisted into increasingly chaotic configurations. "What's causing it?" "We think it's a cascade effect," Emily explained, pulling up multiple data streams. "Each rescue has been disturbing the anomaly's fundamental structure. It's like removing books from the bottom of a stack, eventually, the whole thing becomes unstable." A flash of light announced the arrival of Ambassador ZYXL's hologram. Our scientists have reached the same conclusion, they said, their form flickering with agitated patterns. The anomaly appears to be approaching a critical failure point. What happens when it fails? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Total collapse, Emily and HFY said simultaneously. The ambassador's form pulsed with dark colors as they continued, the resulting quantum shock wave would destroy everything within the anomaly's boundaries. Sarah felt the weight of hundreds of lives settling on her shoulders. How long do we have? At the current rate of degradation? Emily checked her calculations. Maybe 48 hours. We cannot evacuate our remaining ships in that time frame using the current method, HFY stated, their patterns showing clear distress. Even with your entire fleet working at maximum efficiency, it would take at least 2 weeks to free everyone. Sarah stared at the sensor readings, her mind racing. Then we need a new method. Ambassador, you said this anomaly feeds on advanced energy signatures, correct? Yes, which is why our attempts to escape only strengthened it. But what if we could use that against it? Sarah moved to the main display, pulling up the fleet's positioning data. What if we could overload it? Emily's eyes widened. You want to give it indigestion? Exactly. Sarah turned to the ambassador. Your ships are trapped, but they can still generate power, right? What if every ship activated their quantum drive simultaneously? HFY's form contracted sharply. The energy surge would be catastrophic. The anomaly would try to absorb it all at once, Emily finished, catching on to Sarah's plan. The sudden surge might disrupt its containment field just long enough for our ships to pull everyone out. It would be incredibly dangerous, HFY warned. The timing would need to be perfect. Too soon, and the anomaly would simply strengthen. Too late, and we risk triggering a premature collapse. Sarah nodded. We'll need to modify our approach too. Instead of rescuing ships one by one, we'll need to connect to as many as possible before we attempt this. The strain on your cables would be enormous, HFY cautioned. Then we'll need to get creative. Sarah opened a channel to the rescue fleet. All ships, this is Captain Chen. I need every spare cable we have, and I need engineering teams to start working on a way to connect multiple cables together. We're going to make the biggest tow net in human history. The next 36 hours became a blur of activity. Human ships worked tirelessly, weaving their cables into massive networks while Nexury engineers helped modify their quantum fluid hulls to better accommodate the connections. The result was a vast web of cables, spreading out through space like a giant spider's web. Final cable connections complete, Marcus reported, his voice hoarse from hours of coordinating ships. We've got solid links to 243 Nexury vessels. Sarah checked the anomaly readings, the instability was getting worse by the minute. Ambassador, are your people ready? HFY's form had taken on a deep blue coloration that Sarah had never seen before. All ships are prepared for simultaneous quantum drive activation. Captain Chen, what you're attempting has never been done before. The coordination required between our civilizations will work, Sarah finished firmly. Because it has to. She opened a channel to all ships, human and Nexury alike. All vessels, this is Captain Chen. On my mark, Nexury ships will activate their quantum drives at full power. The moment we detect anomaly disruption, all human vessels will execute emergency full reverse thrust. She paused, looking out at the vast network of cables stretching through space, connecting humanity's simple vessels to the Nexury's advanced ships. It was either going to be the greatest rescue in human history or a spectacular failure. Nexury fleet, begin power-up sequence, she commanded. Everyone else, brace for emergency thrust. This is going to get interesting. Through the viewport, the trapped Nexury ships began to glow brighter and brighter, their hulls pulsing with energy that made the anomaly's boundaries waver and distort. It was time to find out if human ingenuity and alien technology could work together to overcome the impossible. All ships, execute. A new chapter. Space itself seemed to hold its breath as hundreds of Nexary quantum drives ignited simultaneously. The trapped ships blazed like newborn stars, their combined energy making the anomaly's boundaries ripple and twist. Sarah gripped her command station as the workhorse's sensors screamed warnings about the unprecedented power levels they were detecting. Anomaly field strength increasing exponentially. Marcus shouted over the growing vibration. It's trying to absorb the energy. Wait, there's a fluctuation in the containment matrix. All human ships, full reverse thrust, now. Sarah commanded. 20 rescue vessels fired their engines at maximum power, their simple chemical rockets straining against the massive web of cables they'd created. The entire rescue fleet shuddered under the strain, metal groaning as immense forces threatened to tear everything apart. Hull stress approaching critical levels, Wei warned from her station. The cables are at 115% of rated capacity. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as reality itself seemed to bend and warp around the anomaly. The Nexary ship's quantum drives continued to pour energy into it, like feeding a star until it went supernova. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then everything happened at once. The anomaly's boundaries suddenly flickered, like a bubble about to burst. In that split second of weakness, the combined thrust of the human fleet finally found purchase. Hundreds of Nexary ships lurched forward, breaking free of the anomaly's weakened grip. Multiple hull breaches detected. Marcus called out. Cables failing across the network. Keep pulling. Sarah ordered, watching as the cables began snapping one by one. We might not get another chance. The anomaly's collapse began at its center, a cascade of quantum reactions that rippled outward like a shockwave. The last Nexary vessels cleared its boundary just as space itself seemed to implode behind them, the anomaly collapsing into nothingness with a flash of light that temporarily blinded every sensor in the fleet. When the sensors finally cleared, Sarah took in the scene before her. The rescue fleet was battered, with dozens of broken cables floating like cosmic debris around them. But surrounding them were hundreds of Nexary ships, all intact, all free. Damage report, Sarah called out, her voice hoarse. Multiple system failures across the fleet, Marcus responded. But everyone's alive. We did it, Captain. We actually did it. Ambassador Zwexol's hologram appeared on the bridge, their form radiating patterns that the translator interpreted as a mixture of joy and disbelief. Captain Chen, you and your people have accomplished what we thought impossible. You've saved not just our ships, but changed our understanding of what progress truly means. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the greatest advances come from looking backward, Ambassador. Though I have to admit, we couldn't have done this without your people's cooperation at the end. It was humanity's simple technology and Nexary power working together that made this possible. The ambassador's form shifted into complex geometric patterns. The Council of Nexary Worlds has been in emergency session throughout this crisis. We have reached a decision that will change the course of both our civilizations. The hologram expanded, showing a map of known space. Earth sits at a crucial junction of unexplored territories. We would like to establish a joint space station here, in your solar system. A place where our civilizations can exchange knowledge and ideas. You want to learn from us? Sarah asked, surprised. Even though we're centuries behind you technologically? Because you are centuries behind us, Zwexol corrected. Your people see solutions that we have become too advanced to consider. This rescue has taught us that true progress isn't just about moving forward. Sometimes it requires the wisdom to recognize value in simplicity. Over the next few months, as the joint station took shape in Earth orbit, Sarah often found herself looking out at the stars, thinking about how first contact had turned out so differently from anything humanity had imagined. They had expected to be the students, learning from advanced alien civilizations. Instead, they had become teachers as well, showing the galaxy that sometimes the oldest solutions were still the best ones. 1 year after the rescue, Sarah stood in the observation dome of the new station, now named Convergence. Below her, Earth spun serenely, while Nexary ships moved gracefully alongside human vessels, their crews working together to explore the unknown. Quite a view, isn't it? Emily Patel joined her at the window. The Nexary engineers were just showing me their latest project. They're actually working on incorporating some of our primitive mechanical systems into their quantum drive designs. They say it makes them more reliable. Sarah nodded, watching as a new class of ship emerged from the station's construction yards, a vessel that combined human pragmatism with Nexary technology. You know what the real breakthrough was? She asked. Not the rescue itself, but the moment both our species realized we had something to learn from each other. The Nexary call it the Simplicity Protocol now, Emily said with a laugh. It's becoming required reading at their engineering academies. When advanced technology fails, seek primitive solutions. Sarah smiled as she watched another mixed crew of humans and Nexary board their ship, heading out to explore the galaxy together. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe not by matching advanced alien technology, but by showing the value of keeping things simple. Sometimes, she realized, the best way to reach the stars was to remember where you came from. As she turned to head to her next meeting, a briefing on a joint human-Nexary exploration mission, she couldn't help but think that this was just the beginning. Humanity had found its place among the stars not by trying to catch up with advanced civilizations, but by reminding them of the wisdom they'd left behind in their race to the future. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all.